Okay, I know this may be a little controversial, and I'm fully prepared to lose some people when I say this, but I propose that a mod system be added to this COD Zombies game. Ah, fuck. Okay, so I shit you not, I had completely forgotten that this system already exists in World War II Zombies. Despite all the criticism thrown at World War II Zombies, I've already seen it directed towards map design, art style, and characters. Never really the specialists or the mod system. But I still feel like it is lacking. It runs into the same problem BO4 had with its perk system. There are just certain items that are just so much better than everything else. You never use less than 2 specific specialist mods for any given specialist, which I would say is once again some lost potential. As you may recall, I had claimed to have come up with a system that integrates BO4's design concept of encouraging variety and CW's somewhat lacking upgrade system. But now I realize there are 2 more systems being mixed into this. World War II's mod system and Vanguard's Covenant system, which is just a worse version of World War II system anyway. With just this change, it will quite possibly turn this game into an endless horde survival / looter shooter hybrid. With all of their concept ideas and power combined, we will form basically the mod system from Warframe. Look, I understand that this may be the place where I start to lose a lot of people, if I haven't already, but better to have an idea than none at all, right? And I personally felt like all of these COD Zombies games have been building up towards something like this since World War II. And I can't say if it started at Infinite Warfare because I've seen like a grand total of 10 minutes of footage from that game. But for those that stuck around, I'm sure that there are many people who have no idea what Warframe is or have never played it. So allow me to explain it to the best of my ability. And if you never played COD Zombies, what the heck are you doing here? This mod system will cover many aspects of this COD Zombies game. Perks, field upgrades, specialists, AATs, pack-a-punch, integral game mechanics, and the player. But before we get into that, we have to explain how this mod system works. If you don't know, the way it works in Warframe is that the player and an assortment of their other gear have slots to equip the mods they earn through their playthrough. The average amount of mod slots each item has is typically between 9 or 12. Each mod has a buff that will apply to said gear, all with varying effects. But mods have a cost, and gear has a cost capacity. You cannot apply any more mods if they all collectively go over this cost capacity. The way to supplement this problem is to use it with a little item called a former, which will polarize a mod slot you select with a certain school that will make applying mods more efficient. Each mod in the game is affiliated with a different school depending on what it does. If you put a mod with the correct polarized mod slot, its cost is halved. However, this is also a limiter on what other mods you can use. For if you put a mod of the wrong school, its cost is increased by 1.5 times. Polarization, however, resets the gear's individual level and will have to be built back up again. Now that we got the general idea of how the Warframe mod system works, let's implement it into this COD Zombies game. Each and every piece of gear, all separate perks, AATs, field upgrades, and specialists, will have their own mod menus, each able to hold 8 mods maximum. The player, however, has 12 mod slots, due to the player having way more applicable mods than everything else. They will have 10 normal mod slots and 2 game modifier mod slots. I specifically wanted to separate game modifier slots because they fundamentally change how the game is played. The initial cost capacities of every mod menu item will be 30, but I would hate the idea of having to acquire an item for 33 different mod menus in a COD Zombies game. So instead, I've decided to double the cost capacity of all gear upon the player's first time prestiging their player level. All subsequent prestiges will add a token to every piece of gear that can be redeemed to add a polarization slot should the player want to add one. On the note of prestiging, while I do like the idea of level transferring between this game and Warzone, I think I want there to be a separate XP bar for the player and one for the account XP. The account XP will transfer to Warzone. That is because I want the max player level to be 60, and the player has to decide whether to prestige or not. Keep in mind, however, the gear does not have their own individual levels, so prestiging will not reset their costs like it does in Warframe. Rather, it will relock some items that were acquired through level up. More on that in part 4. When prestiging, mods and potential polarization slots will be assigned roles. These roles are Leader, Slayer, Collector, Tinker, and Survivor, all of which are pretty self-explanatory. But should you want a more detailed explanation of what each one specializes in, Leader specializes in rewarding players for cooperative actions and proximity, granting buffs should the criteria be met. It's a more multiplayer focused mod set, kind of a support character build. Slayer specializes in doing damage and finding alternative ways of dealing it. Tinker specializes in changing certain items and gear into different styles of use. It fundamentally changes how they are used and what role they will fill. Collector specializes in obtaining points and salvage. It will also find new ways of gaining them as well. This role also helps in faster charge rates for field upgrades and specialists, as well as finding new ways to charge them. And Survivor specializes in keeping the player alive and managing health. Each class will all have a simple symbol within their mod cards that differentiate them. That way they aren't hard to tell apart. Now let's talk about where and how to equip mods. A player will equip mods at the loadout station. Upon interacting with it, it will list 5 different menus. Loadouts, again, player, perks, AATs, and field upgrades / specialists. Selecting any will bring them into their respective submenu. There, the player can select the item they want to edit, bringing them to that item's mod menu. There they can view the mods they have acquired. In the menu, only the names and colored rarities will be displayed, but by hovering the cursor over it, it will expand or have a sidebar give a description of how the mod works. A player would then drag and drop or select and place mods into the mod menu until they are satisfied. And as a special treat, there will be specific mods for the perks that will change them into entirely different perks should they be equipped. Though this will only be an aesthetic change, and the other mods that perk has equipped will still apply. Each mod menu will have 3 presets, which should give players lots of room to play with different combinations. And should a player feel satisfied with their mod selections, they are able to save the entirety of their player, perk, AAT, and field upgrade / specialist mod configurations onto a loadout preset. There will be 10 loadout presets for a player to choose from. They will have a pre-selected weapon and field upgrade / specialist just like in Cold War, but now they will also include saved mod presets. To save the mod configuration to the loadout, simply select the mod configuration slot in the loadout screen and select Apply Current Mod Configuration. It will ask the player if they're sure, then the current mod configuration will be saved onto that loadout slot. If the player wants to change it, the player will have to edit the mod configurations of the specific items again and save it into the loadout once again. And for those who are a little more resistant to change, there will also be 2 separate loadouts from the main 10. One will be called Classic, which will have a configuration that will mimic the gameplay from World at War to BO3 as much as possible. The player will only have an M1911, no field upgrades or specialists, and a mod configuration that mimics the exact same attributes the perks, AATs, Pack-a-Punch, and the player had in those games. Nothing in this preset can be edited. The second preset will be called Modern, and will basically carry over all the mechanics from Cold War. The player can choose which weapon and field upgrade can go into this preset, but the mod configuration cannot be edited. as it will carry over all the tiers the perks and AATs had in Cold War. Keep in mind that certain AATs and specialists will be impossible to obtain when using these presets. It is also highly suggested that players select these presets when first starting out the game, as they are more well equipped with mods than the player will be when starting out. But when enough time passes and enough mods are gathered, both of these presets should be obsolete. While we're on that note, let's go on a little side tangent. I want to expand the shooting range from the previous part. Copying the shooting range from World War II doesn't give the player all the necessary information they need for playing zombies. So now I'm going to turn it into an internal obstacle course, where players can roam free to test their perks, mods, and movement against regular Nuketown mannequins. These mannequins will be the equivalent of around 30 zombies. That way, pack-a-punch variants of weapons can be tested more solidly. Plus, all the previous things I said in part 2 about the shooting range still apply here. Well, we've talked so much about mods, but just how does the player acquire them? They are acquired through drops, just like salvage equipment or dropped weapons from CW. They appear as floating hexagons that the player will automatically pick up when they walk over it. Rarities are split into 5 colors: white for common, blue for rare, purple for epic, orange for legendary, and blood red for heroics. However, some mods are only dropped by certain enemies. Regular enemies and hounds only drop commons, rares, and epics, so it would be special and elite enemies that a player would most likely want to seek out. Manglers, Disciples, Megatons, and Cransy Soldat carry the most valuable mods and also have the chance to drop multiple of them. Here is a list of all the enemies and things that drop a mod. The drop chances from regular enemies and hounds are only 0.66%, but when a player kills an enemy and doesn't get a mod, that chance goes up to 1.32% chance, adding another 0.66%. Every kill will grant the player an additional 0.66% chance of a mod drop. Once the player gets a mod, this drop chance resets back to 0.66%, and the player is unable to acquire another mod from a regular enemy until they kill an additional 100 regular enemies. Only after that criteria is met does the drop chance apply and begin to rise again. Acquiring mods from any other means other than from regular enemies will still reset this drop chance back down to 0.66%. And just to quell some concerns, the mod drops will be client-side, meaning every player is able to get the same mod from the same drop once. And be sure to collect them quickly, as they despawn after 60 seconds. When acquiring the mod, it will flash on the screen for a couple seconds, showing the name, picture, and some of the description before it gets cut off. However, should players find this presentation disruptive, there is an option in the settings that will make it simplistic, by putting its name and what it applies to in the text chat with highlighted text that is the same color as the rarity. Then there is a setting that will just not notify the player at all if they so choose. But getting the mod is only half the battle. They also come with upgrade tiers. Without upgrading mods, they will be weak and hardly worth equipping, but they will remain cheap. Upgrading these mods requires Aether Crystals, which will be heavily inflated in this game to more resemble Endo from Warframe, that game's secondary currency for upgrading mods. And as you can see, they tend to be a little expensive. I had considered bringing back the refined and flawless Aether Crystals from CW, but I felt that at the inflated values and numbers, it would highly complicate the upgrade process, so regular Aether Crystals will serve just fine. Every mod comes with a base cost and a varied amount of upgrade levels. Each upgrade level will increase the cost of a mod by 1. So if a mod's base cost is 5 and it has 4 upgrade levels, upgrading it once will make it cost 6, twice will be 7, thrice is 8, and max is 9. Upgrades are irreversible, and if the player wants a cheaper version for some reason, they must acquire it again. Aether Crystal cost will rise exponentially with every upgrade tier. In order for a player to acquire Aether Crystals, they can be earned through general gameplay, killing enemies, and completing objectives and Easter eggs. Here's a list of things that award them. And as a little bonus for collectors, there will be a 1 in 1,150 chance that any mod a player collects will be a holographic mod, giving it a holographic design. Then there will be another 1 in 1,150 chance for the picture the mod comes with to be animated. If we took both occurring at the same time, there would be a 0.0000078% chance that mod would be holographic and animated. Now, I can say how I want a mod system all I want, but that doesn't help me create a foundation of potential. There is nothing to grasp or visualize. As the ghost from Polar Express wisely said,
"Seeing is believing." Am I right?
So what I did was create a Google Doc with over 300 mods a player can equip to themselves and their equipment. I have linked the doc in the description of this video, and I highly implore anyone listening to give it at least a skim. There are some really good ideas in there I hope y'all will like. But also a disclaimer, there are things in that mod list that will have slight spoilers for parts 4 and 6. So just be wary of that. But seeing how I came up with quite a lot of good ideas for mods, I realized that some of them were just way more powerful than others. So that is when I decided to come up with a research system. I didn't want them to go to waste by balancing them, but I also didn't want them to be drops or Easter egg rewards. In this research system, a player must seek out a set of 3 to 7 mods to trade them in for a research mod. Research mods are some of the most powerful mods in the game, mostly put within the heroic rarity, but some may require an incredibly steep price, like how Modular Cartridge Smith requires all of the cartridge variations and 2 others. This will help give players a solid long-term goal in their quest of becoming overpowered. And also as a little treat, I'd like to have a stylized cutscene explanation of what the acquired research mod does. Kind of like the way that Ratchet and Clank A Crack in Time did it. It will help the player understand the benefits and drawbacks of a particular mod while making it look as cool as possible with trailer-like demonstration, with some in-universe explanations for such quirks. And as a quality of life bonus, should a player want a regular mod that they have already collected but had lost for any reason, they can simply trade Aether Crystals for it, except research mods. Mods can be researched, upgraded, and bought at the mod station. Now, I could have left it at that, but I wanted even more. I don't even know the meaning behind less is more. This is what I would like to call blood vessel mods. Blood vessel mods are highly specialized and specific mods for individual items, perks, field upgrades, specialists, and individual weapons, akin to how Rivens work in Warframe. However, they only provide stat bonuses and do not majorly change how those items function. Except for perks, because I was really struggling to find general buffs that fit all of them. Stat bonuses themselves and their percentages are randomized. Only 2 to 3 bonuses may be given per blood vessel mod. There is also a chance of receiving a debuff. However, this will also increase the other bonuses by the same debuff percentage, even past their maximum cap. The roll and cost will also be randomized. The base cost will always be between 6 and 14 and will always have 10 upgrade levels. The stat bonuses are already predetermined at their max values, meaning the max values will be divided evenly between each of the 10 levels. Stat bonuses can be re-rolled for different bonuses and stat totals by using a significant amount of Aether Crystals and possibly having to trade up to 2 random mods, including research mods. Blood vessel mods are primarily earned through the highest level mission contracts and have a small chance of dropping off of Titans. However, they will not appear in both instances unless the player has completed the Sula Marie Easter egg quest. Spoilers for part 6, I'm sorry. Players are guaranteed to get one for each and every main quest Easter egg they complete for the first time. Subsequent completions will no longer reward players with these mods. The mods claim no allegiance to any particular item or weapon. Rather, the player must assign them to said item or weapon at max level. Upon doing so, the mod will assign the random buffs and be unable to change from what it was assigned to. But something special will happen when these mods are applied to weapons. Players will have the ability to change their blood vessel mods into soul drop mods. Having a soul drop mod on a weapon is purely an aesthetic change and sort of builds off an idea Vanguard Zombies had, of all things. If Dark Aether entities can be turned into weapons, or if a weapon can form a consciousness, why can't we make weapons like that? Soul drop mods weave a consciousness into the player's weapon of choice, turning them into truly unique weapons of legend. But it does not happen immediately. The consciousness will be formed in 4 stages, each taking about 2,500 kills, about a round 55 game each by my guesstimate. And to transfer from one stage to the next, a player must sacrifice 1 to 2 random mods, and it can include research mods, along with some aether crystals. At first it will just be whispers, then at 2,500 kills with the weapon, a voice will audibly call louder over the whispers, but still not have intelligible words. At 5,000 kills, the whispers will diminish and the voice will say things, but it is quite heavily muffled. At 7,500 kills, this voice is more clearly heard, but is still quite distorted and limited to single words. Then at 10,000 kills, nothing changes. That is until the player goes down and nearly bleeds out, or participates in a boss battle. The voice will say an inspirational line and revive the player if they are down, while it creates an explosion that kills all normal enemies within 15 meters while stunning specials and elites. The explosion also guarantees knockdowns on titans. The voice will introduce itself and instruct the player to live and slay. The player is granted all perks, unlimited ammo, and invincibility for 30 seconds. The player cannot switch weapons while this event is occurring. After the event ends, this voice will quip at various actions the player takes, like a partner. The blood vessel mod is renamed to a soul drop mod. And should the player inspect it within the gunsmith, they will find that they can name the weapon whatever they want. Up to 30 characters too. Doing so will rename the current weapon into whatever the player chose for as long as the soul drop mod is equipped. This name will also persist through Pack-a-Punch levels, but should the player want to disable the voices on the soul drop mod, they can do so in the settings. If anyone is curious as to what random buffs certain items and weapons will receive, I will once again lead you to the description. There will be another Google Doc that will explain everything, even the types of voices and mannerisms of the soul drop mods. Hope you'll give them a look. If you recall, having mods, to me, feels like the true path that all these side systems were leading up to. It fixes BO4's failed attempt at fixing crutch perks by taking CWs and custom map approaches by letting players have the option of acquiring all the perks. It also fixes CW's permanent upgrade system by making it customizable, and World War II's system by having more mod slots. That way it's statistically unlikely for players to choose the exact same loadouts every time. And the Covenant system is just a system that World War II did better, so maybe it didn't need to be included.
That shit is fucking trash, dog. Get the fuck.
But as much as 300 mods is, I still feel like that there is still too little. With the amount of items having their own menus and exclusive mods, you could evenly distribute all of them 33 times and each would only have 9 mods. That's not what happened, of course. Some items and equipment got more attention than others. Vitaliation is hurting especially badly with only 4 mods to its name. So I ask any and everyone to leave your mod ideas down below in the comments. Take a look at the mod list and give me any mods you could think of in the description. Should I find your idea promising, I will add it to the list and credit you for it. Keep in mind that the idea may be subject to change for various reasons. I hope you're all able to give me some ideas. Wait a minute, rewind a bit. Vitaliation is hurting especially badly with only 4 mods to its name. What the heck is Vitaliation, you may ask? Well, I am glad you did, good sir, for I will explain this new AAT and its effects in part 4.